Good now, revolutionaries. Whether you're listening morning, noon, or night, this is the Rise Up Morning Somewhere show. We're busting ghosts today. So take a second, let us know how you're doing. Leave us a comment, retweet the room, and then enjoy the one, the only Ghostbusters by Mr. Ray Parker Jr.
As is tradition, I can't hear it, Evan.
Can't? Oh,
No.
man. It's rocking.
Get there.
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
I got to rewatch this.
Who you gonna call? Ghostbuster. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, monsters and machines, people and creatures of all ages. This is the Rise Up Morning Somewhere show. My name is Evan Mann. I'm here with my good friend and colleague, Mr. Alex Popovich. And today, we are not the Ghostbusters, but we are bringing out some ghosts from SEC Chair Gary Gensler's past on the show today. Absolutely. Continuing the conversation from last week. And then later in the show, we are going to be reading, in case you missed it last night, for the second time ever in public, Rise Up, the new children's book by Faceless Labs to spread the spark of Founders Forge. I'm so excited about it. Glad to be here with you. Alex, man, good to see you as always. How are you today, brother?
So good. I've, got in-laws in town, so that's always good. And
what a treat to be able to say that. I feel like the trope is in-laws in town.
No, we're good. We're doing all kinds of home improvement projects that I've been procrastinating, waiting for my father-in-law to arrive. So I think there's retiling. We're building a deck. There's all kinds of stuff going on over the next week. So I'm good to go, man. I'm ready to pull some skeletons out of Daddy Gensler's closet.
Hey, man. Me too. Before we get into too many skeletons, let's tell them what we've got for them. We've got a POAP for you today featuring concept art never before seen from the book coming out soon, Rise Up. This art may not make it into the book. This is just back and forths that Kyle Maddow, the illustrator, and the craftsman that we've been doing together. This is a drawing that I sent him. That he spun into gold. If you were there last night, you got his version. If you're here today, sorry, you get mine. And hopefully, we'll have something cool for folks who collect them all. We were talking about doing something on the 50th show, which is coming up quickly in about 2 months. I think I would love to do some POAP redemptions for some maybe discounted merch or something like that. But Alex, do you want to tell folks, in case they're listening for the first time, how they can claim their POAP?
Absolutely. So for those of you who don't know the drill, we do POAPs with all of our shows. POAP stands for Proof of Attendance Protocol. It's a cool way for you to memorialize the fact that you did a thing by minting a little memento of the thing that you did on the blockchain forever. So all you need to do to claim one is to download the POAP app. It is completely free. Make an account. You do not need to link a crypto wallet to it. However, you are more than welcome to if you would like to. I know I've linked one of my MetaMasks to it, of course, to collect all my POAPs. And in order to mint today's, all you need to do is join our Discord, head up to the very top of the server list, or the channel list rather, and pick the Bot Hub. And inside of the Bot Hub channel, there is a big dashboard. There's a couple tutorials. It's real great. I put them all together. And click the POAP button, and when prompted, enter the secret word, the first half of which Evan is going to give you imminently, the second half of which Evan will give you near the end of the show. And bada bing, bada boom, there's your POAP.
Bada bing, bada boom. The first part of the secret word today is an unusual word, so I'm going to spell it for you, is smelt. SMELT. That's not smelt like the tiny little fish you catch at night in the net if you live in Michigan. It's smelt like forging something, turning ore into a tool you can use. And I think we might have a little more on that later in the show. Yeah, Alex, do you want to give them a tease and some insight about where that comes from? You want to do it now, or you want to talk about it a little later?
Smelting?
Smelting, yeah. What are your thoughts with smelting?
Well, it's something I'm kind of becoming more and more attached to as we start to explore and build out more of the inner workings, mechanisms, and features of the Founders Forge. And what do you do? What is one of the many things that you can do in a forge? And I'm excited to watch people smelt future successes by participating in the ecosystem. So
absolutely.
I'm really leaning into this whole brand identity thing right now. I get a little carried away. The
flame. So yeah, I like it. Nothing like a good story, and you got to have iconography to go with it. Absolutely. So if you're not hip to it, or you're following along but you're not involved yet, you want to stay close to Founders Forge IO. That's the Twitter handle. And just this week, we've launched a landing page version for our website, the full version of which will be coming soon at the same handle, foundersforge.io. Now, I've had some trouble with it. You got to type in the HTTPS www foundersforge.io, at least on a Chrome browser, at least on my computer. But go ahead, check it out. If you're not hip to Founders Forge, I wanted to give you this note. While we're doing the story, our mission is really to make learning about future technology inspiring and fun for the next generation, and to center young people through this initiative. So one part of that is the Founders Fund. Starting soon, we're talking about like next week, we've been meeting with a couple of young creators and adults who champion them. We want to start giving micro grants. And then after our first mint, which will spread the pieces of our story, the Forgers, to the world, we want to use the community's brain trust and more of the funding that we acquire to sustain and continue giving these kinds of grants in perpetuity to young people who are changing the world and the adults who are championing them. If you are a young person, if you know a young person who is doing cool stuff, send them our way. We would love to support them.
Yeah, it's one of those things we feel pretty strongly about, because the simple truth of the matter is that to use a lot of these new technologies, you need to be connected to the internet, and you need to have a piece of equipment capable of using most of these tools.
That's right.
A laptop, a smartphone, a tablet, something. And not everyone has access to that. So for young people who are really interested in pursuing these things and building cool shit and getting more and more involved, who are being gate-kept out of participation because they don't have a few $100 for a laptop or the whatever, that's where we would like to come in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So more on Founders Forge coming in the future. We'll have the story for you later in the hour, and we're going to get into Gary Gensler's ghosts in just a minute, but I want to say hi to some of our friends who are listening here, and I got to start with the man behind the sounds you know and love, Bill, my friend. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good. How are you?
Man, so good. Nothing jazzes me up like hearing a great sound paired with the right words at the right time. You're getting sharp at that, my friend.
Oh, I take it seriously, but I will say that once a week is not enough of your kindness and smooth talking. So
my smooth talking.
We need to figure out a happy medium. I know 3 weeks was a bit much, but can we do maybe have a bonus show every once in a while?
Okay.
We've been talking about an Evan After Dark kind of show, where perhaps we get Evan to read some bedtime stories to all of us in the night as we sit there with our tea and wind down.
Yeah, but listen, man.
I will say,
What do you
Yeah,
say? Go ahead. I was just going to say that you need Mihir for that. If you're going to have a real like champion voice read, I know he doesn't show his voice a lot on Twitter Spaces, but
He's
man,
selfish like that.
That guy. Yeah, he's selfish like that. Go ahead, Bill.
I was just going to say one other note. Keeping score for Neil. I see in the audience. I already have bingo, I think.
Oh, no, you do? Okay, give me your spaces. Read them off.
Yeah.
Starting late.
Yeah. Actually, I'll go. I don't know any other than that, but you always have that one. So that should be like the free space in the middle.
I was saying to Alex as we got on, I said, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to start putting the Twitter space to start at 12:05 and the StreamYard stream too. So
all that means is we're going to start starting at 12:10. That's all that means.
No. We're going to get to it. We're really going to get to it. But thank you for being here, Bill. Thank you, everybody who's listening. It's good. I think, we'll talk about that. We are going to start doing through Founders Forge. We want to do a show that centers young people, that puts them at the forefront, gives them our platform. But then, maybe we'll have another, maybe we can bring back Monday mornings and make it a true morning show, a place where we can say things like shit and not have to worry about too many kids listening.
One final note before I go back behind the soundboard, I would say I did promise Alex that I will lay off the soundboard during your reading. So I give you my faithful oath not to cloud that beautiful masterpiece that you're about to put in front of us with any sound. So Neil's happy too. So we're good.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Neil. I see Lisa's here. Kaio is here. Kaio and I were live last night. We had a great live. We've got a great live series going on right now where Kaio draws one of the traits, one of the outfits from the upcoming Forgers collection. And last night I read the story with him. We were on TikTok, we were on YouTube, we were on Twitter. It was a lot of fun. If you are interested in that, he was giving out a tip last night. While Kaio uses Procreate, which is a paid software, if you have a tablet or a device and you want to start exploring the creation of digital art, and I would say do it, because there are so many advantages over like a paper and pen that can help you draw more well and just get going quicker. He recommended a software called Fresco. I believe it's by Adobe, but it's got a freemium version. Kyle, throw me a thumbs up if I got that right, but check it out. Fresco. And that's what I got for previews. I have a slew of tweets at the ready to just bury Gary Gensler today.
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm pulling up my new tweets. So Evan and I thought it would be fun to take some old Gary Gensler words and some new Gary Gensler words, and let's let the Garys talk it out.
Why not? Let Gary have a conversation with himself and see what we can come to. Maybe we'll get somewhere.
I doubt it, but you know what? It's going to be funny.
I doubt it. If you're listening to this and you've got incriminating evidence that you want to share, you can feel free to leave it in the comments. We'll try and post everything here on YouTube or in the Jumbotron on Twitter. Alex, what you got first, man? Take us down Gary's memory lane.
That's what I was thinking. Do we think that it would be more impactful to perhaps start with some old inspiring Gary Gensler words? So for a little bit of context, right? One of the things that I've personally talked about quite a bit, and I'm becoming steadily more and more alienated with, is Gary Gensler's MIT course. I don't remember the year. I want to say it was 2018.
Can confirm.
He taught a course on blockchain and cryptocurrency at MIT, and the whole course is available on MIT OpenCourseware's YouTube channel, and it's fantastic. It is quite good. But in it, as you'll see today, he expresses a number of opinions along with his dissection of the technology in question here. And it seems that he's had a little bit of a change of heart since taking over the SEC. And so today we are going to compare some of the things that he said back then that made us excited when Gary took over the SEC originally.
Yeah.
And then what he's talking about now, which is the reason why we are not quite so excited.
Yeah, and if you've been on the show with us before, you've heard me say the hot take that I think Gary Gensler may be one of the best people for that job, but I got to be open and honest with you. I need to walk back that opinion. There's nothing, especially in the last month, There's just nothing that
Nope.
man can do that is
No.
like the man he used to be. I was jazzed. I was excited at the start, and now it's over.
It's like I commented on the last thing he posted. I was just like, Gary, read the room, my guy.
I don't know.
It's just rough. But we're gonna get into all that. So Evan, I think perhaps it would make more sense if we started with old Gary.
Old Gary, yeah. Let's go to old Gary first. What's old Gary got for us? Old Gary.
Do you have the video? Are we doing old tweets? Or are we doing
So
video?
I've got the whole handle set up here. If you give me 2 or 3 keywords in a tweet, I can probably pull it up on both places. And you should be able to share your screen in StreamYard. So if you have it on a monitor and you want to handle the StreamYard, maybe I can handle the Jumbotron. And
have it on this monitor. Wrong monitor.
Can't you share that monitor? Tap the present button and see what comes up for you. I promise you.
These two computers are not even remotely connected.
Bill, give me a thumbs down sound.
You know
Thank
what though?
you.
What would be a good place to start?
Okay.
And I don't know if we have this one at the ready, but there is a very specific lesson very early in the course from MIT where Gary is talking about archaic and antiquated currencies and the methods of transfer between people. I think he uses the classic, seashell or large stone island example, and then he talks about he kind of segues into a way that Bitcoin makes really, really good sense. I think he started off, does anyone have any Bitcoin? Has anyone ever interacted with it? Most people hadn't. A couple people had, I think.
I think I know the tweet you're talking about.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any Bitcoin? I remember this. Let me get to it. If you've got a keyword or two from the tweet, that'll help me find it. Here we go. I usually ask how many people have owned Bitcoin.
Okay, there we go.
I do believe this is it. Yeah, I got you. Gary Gensler, Bitcoin. And I want to say that for myself, at least, almost all of these tweets have come to my attention thanks to the reporting of one account who's at the top of the Twitter space, coming to the top of the YouTube space shortly. This is ZK, as in Zed King _ Shark. ZK Shark has been relentless in clipping content from that course. Brilliant. And then posting it for everybody to see and tagging Gary Gensler in pretty much all of it. So Alex, here, I'm going to share my screen. You can tell me if this is the first tweet. I've got it in the Jumbotron, like I say, too. But this clip right here, he says, I usually ask in talks how many people have owned Bitcoin. Interesting. He was asking that all the way back in 2018, but Gary has never owned any crypto ever as per his congressional testimony. He says.
Interesting.
Here we go. It's coming to you. You got the blue wheel of death right now.
Classic.
Yeah, here we go. 2018, Gary Gensler with ZK Shark too. Golly. Is this the clip you're talking about, Alex?
Yep, sure is.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, we did a presentation not too long ago at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology, and this is essentially how we started. It's a fine way to open the introduction to any of this new tech. To just ask what people's experience with it is, because it's relatively niche. Chances are that the majority of the room you're talking to hasn't interacted with it, and if they have, perhaps it's been a less than fun experience. So, and I definitely, I mean, like I said, I've taken this full course more than once and then spot watched lots of different pieces of it. And he's pretty consistent throughout this whole thing that you definitely get the impression that he thinks this is pretty cool. This is a pretty cool evolution of currency. So really unfortunate to see where we're at, but shall we kick this up with a tweet from, say this is yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yeah, let me see it.
Okay. I'm looking for a very specific one. Oh, you know what? This was an SEC tweet, not a Gary tweet.
Okay, we can find it.
Yep. So it's the one, Evan, he just put up about pro tips for college kids.
Oh, for investors. Yeah.
Yeah. And I very specifically want to hit his final bullet point.
Yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
that tweet.
It's coming to the top of your Jumbotron now. It should
Excellent.
be momentarily on the screen share. You want to go ahead and read it out, Alex, if you've got it?
Yep.
Yeah, this is rich.
So I think yours is going to load faster than mine here.
Oh, don't stand on the ceremony, brother.
Well, I'm on Gary's personal. Is it on his personal
No,
page?
this is on his personal page also. But it came from SEC Investor
I got it.
_D.
Yep. So some investment tips for college students. Consider paying off high interest debt first. Thanks, Gary.
Yep.
Yeah. Pro tip from Gary Gensler. Try not to be in high interest debt. Okay. Thank you so much.
I'm on board so far.
Yep. Open the account that's right for you. That's not vague at all. Extremely helpful. Very specific.
But I do like it because, we don't give investment advice that's one size fits all. It's all about what your goals are. I can get on board with that at least. I could, but if I'm the head of the SEC, maybe give me a resource or two that I could start reading about. To me, that point is the equivalent of saying like, hey, I've got some pro tips for you. Do a good job. It's like, okay, it's pointless. It's completely pointless. Use investment apps responsibly. Again, Ooh.
Thanks, Gary. Hot take. And use caution when investing in crypto assets. Well, don't worry, Gary. We can exercise an abundance of caution because you're making sure that we have a variety of different crypto assets to access on as many platforms as possible by systematically threatening all of them with legal action while providing no context for the basis of that litigation. So I think that we're whittling down to no options, and then all of us will just be super responsible. So this just to me, the contrast here is you open up with this kind of, kickoff to what promises to be a good conversation. Has anyone owned any Bitcoin? Which can probably then turn into, no, I haven't owned Bitcoin, but I've owned this weird thing or that thing or this other thing. And then we can talk about the differences, why one might be more valuable for some people than the other, why one maybe should be a token while another maybe shouldn't be a token, why blockchain is necessary for this, but maybe not that. Tons of ways that you can take that conversation. And then meanwhile, here, rather than taking the conversation anywhere, we're just trying to shut it all down. And I have a lot of issue with that.
Yeah, 100%. The thing that I don't understand is how somebody, again, this speaks to power. When you have a lot of power, there are a lot of documented approaches about how people communicate based on their situation. What's a strategic choice for you? If you're in a pickle, do you blame someone else? Do you defend your actions? Do you offer an apology? Or do you just say nothing? And you know how that's like the de facto, if you're arrested for something, all those TV lawyers are like, don't say anything.
Yep.
Exercise your Fifth Amendment right. That kind of thing doesn't go so well in a PR crisis or in the court of public opinion if you don't have a lot of power. But if you have a lot of power, if you're rich, if you're influential, if you're wealthy, whatever, you can really strategically use the tactic of silence. You can just stonewall people until a more powerful force asks you to speak. And so for Gary Gensler, for a long time, he didn't have to speak. But I really feel like now that Congress is getting involved, and now that Coinbase has kind of leveled up their lawsuit, I just think it's only going to be a matter of time before he has to go on the record and address. I've got to believe that.
As you indicated, the nature of the conversation has changed. We are no longer offering vague platitudes about responsible practices when approaching any of these things, because we are systematically stripping away the freedoms to approach them at all, regardless of the level of personal responsibility that we're all taking. So as you remove choice, the message that make good choices, or the message that you put out being make good choices, loses all meaning because you're not giving me the opportunity. I talk about this with Jordan a lot, right? If I want him to learn something, he should be allowed to make a mistake.
Sure.
And Obviously, you keep an eye on him to make sure that his mistake is not getting hit by a bus or something. But, if it's eating too many sweets and getting a stomach ache, that's a lesson that means more if he learns it himself. And I think that I have to believe that a group as sophisticated as the SEC, and for those of you who didn't just see me, those are hefty air quotes around
Hefty.
sophisticated.
Chunkies.
You would think that they could find some sort of middle ground between ban it all and here's a totally unmitigated myriad of choices, some of which are incredibly dangerous and giant scams and honeypots waiting to bleed you dry. I refuse to accept that there is no middle ground. So I wish that we had a little bit more to go on. And as I said, the nature of the conversation has changed to where his messaging to these institutions, which is, if you want to operate in the US and sell stuff to US citizens, you better comply with the regulations. And these big guys are like, dope, super down to comply with regulations. Do you mind telling me what they are? And he's like, oh, what? Sorry, Mom, is that you? And just nothing. What are they supposed to do with that? Like, I don't want to influence policy, but bro, you got to put something in front of us, or what are we doing here? And if that congressional hearing taught us anything in particular, it's that man doesn't even have the vague semblance of a plan in his head, or at least not one that he's willing to share with anybody. And there's a lot of disagreement amongst the upper echelon of the SEC. I mean, take two people, Hester Pierce, Gary Gensler, massive rift between the two of them in terms of the method of approach. And I don't think Hester Pierce is super jazzed about just letting full unbridled access to everything under the sun in the crypto industry, but she's at least willing to allow some things to be experimented with and tried and kept an eye on, rather than just I don't like the way that's shaping up, just shit can it,
Yeah. Well, and she also, I would say, just as a pushback, she also, I don't think right now has the same responsibilities that Gary does in terms of,
I would completely agree.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
There are a lot of conflicting interests for Gary Gensler that incentivize him to act the way he's acting. And that's beyond Gary. That's like a systemic problem that we have in terms of how married these institutions are to our government, folks like Elizabeth Warren or whatever. A good argument for decentralization.
I will add the disclaimer to my opinions here on this whole thing, that I do recognize and appreciate the quandary that heads of governing bodies and these entities like the SEC can find themselves in when faced with the decision how to, if to, what to regulate, because of the nature of what they're being given by the rest of the US government. Because everybody is got their hands in this, that, the other thing. It's very hard to tell who's being genuine about anything. And often the people who are being genuine are shunted off to the side and not given any sort of a platform to speak. So he is in a very difficult position. I will freely admit that. But I believe there are some simple steps and some simple things he could do and say to at least to point that out, or admit, maybe just stop suing everybody until you're in a position where you can give some rules to follow. Because look at Gemini, tried so hard to follow rules or to get rules. Coinbase, same thing. Coinbase is a publicly traded company. You think they're trying to just do a bunch of weird, shady shit? And, no, I'm pretty sure they would like to keep their status. I can't imagine that if the SEC gave them a rule book that made any kind of sense, they would be like, we're going to do our best to go by this. And maybe we talk about it, maybe we don't. But
and that's the point that everybody keeps making, is on one hand, you've got the SEC saying, we have given you clarification. And on the other side, you've got industry titans saying, no, you really haven't. And you're just kind of regulating against us. And there's go ahead.
Even in that, because that's a valid way to carry on that conversation. So we all say, hey, we need some regulatory clarity. Gary and the SEC says, we've given it to you. Even if we were to right now say, you know what, I believe you. For me, because I'm not very smart, Gary, please reiterate it for me and remind me what it is that you've given us.
Well, and that's a good. This is a good spot to pivot a little bit. If you want more of what Gary Gensler's been saying, again, follow ZK_Shark. That's the account pinned at the top. We've got it here. Had it on the YouTube Jumbotron. If you can't find it, go to Twitter and you'll see we've posted these links at the top. But I want to share with people is really leading the charge for us right now. And I'm a little concerned about this, which we can get in. I don't want to overshadow this because this is a big deal. They're really taking up the charge for all of us. We talk about the importance of crypto legislation. We've talked about like the XRP lawsuit, not XRP maxis. We think the Ripple is a space. For anybody who's not specifics, Coinbase filed a suit against the SEC on like Monday, asking that they be forced to share an answer to a petition they made months ago on whether or not allow the industry to be regulated using frameworks. This is from like summer of last year. Coinbase asked the SEC to propose rules to govern the regulation of securities via digitally native methods. So give us some rules for our crypto. And they didn't offer any kind of public response, but like we said, they've gone ahead and issued Wells notices. They've legislated against this or that, or excuse me, they've enforced action against this or that exchange. So now what Coinbase has done, they've filed a specific type of legal document that it's gonna move litigation a little more faster. I believe it's moving it to arbitration, and I'm gonna look, which basically just means that a judge somewhere is going to make a decision about it versus having some sort of big long trial. And something that they're doing, which I think is interesting, and I want your take on the whole thing, Alex. What do you think about the? Are we all going to start adding shields to our crypto profiles? Have you seen that? That's like their new thing. Bill says yes. Okay, so right now, if you look at Coinbase's profile, or if you're on the YouTube stream, you can see I've got a tweet from them pulled up. You'll notice Brian Armstrong has a shield in his profile. And you're going to see a lot of people around Twitter that have these shields. It's like what everybody does with their emojis in their Twitter bio. It's a way to mark that you are part of this or that community. And in this case, the shield represents that you are standing with Coinbase, arming yourself for the fight in pursuit of regulatory clarity. And I have some thoughts and opinions on it. But since you didn't know about it, I want to get your take. Should we be ideologically aligning ourselves with Coinbase in this way? Do you think it's a good thing, a bad thing? I'm leading you a little with the question, and that's not my intention, but I just can't help it because I'm a bad journalist.
Don't worry. I'm not susceptible to being led quite so easily, but I do have an opinion on that. Twofold. Evan, we've talked about part of this before. There is a tendency, especially lately, in and around the world of litigious happenings, for people to choose a side without really understanding the context, the big picture, or even really what's going on in general. And so my instinct would be, I'm personally not going to choose a side in a legal battle that I'm not read into, because I'm not a legal scholar. I'm not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. I did not study this. I do not have an educated, well-informed position on either side. One could make the very easy case that I'm incredibly biased and have a large conflict of interest in this sort of a battle because I own and operate a company in the Web3 space that is dependent on having an easy to navigate regulatory landscape to follow. So my instinct there would be to recuse myself from participating in that because I don't have all of the information. With this specifically, I think that we are all in a bit of a unique position in that we have been seeing this play out for a long time. And I think that with a little bit of digging, you could relatively well inform yourself on, I think, the finer points of this particular kerfuffle. So in that, I would say that I would probably put the shield in my username if I sat down and spent some time deliberately educating myself on perhaps some nuance in this whole thing that I may have missed.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a cop-out answer to your question, but
Bill, I heard you giving some sound effects to it. What do you think? Do you have a thought on this?
Not particularly, other than, it is a way to show support or something. So, we do it with a lot of different formats and platforms and, whatever it may be. So yeah, it was more pointing out, hey, there you go.
I guess
support. That's another way to show support.
I agree. It's an easy way to show solidarity with something that we perceive to be unjust. I think that I have a little bit of institutional PTSD when it comes to these large crypto exchanges because of the end result of the FTX debacle. And so I don't know enough to confidently 100% say that there is nothing nefarious or shady happening with Coinbase. Although I would like to think that them being publicly traded and after, in the wake of FTX, that it would be more likely that stuff would have come out. But I certainly can't say that for sure. So
yeah, well, and that's not my intention, is to take us there. I don't know enough to have an opinion about that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to speculate on it if I did. What I'm interested in, though, is, as you say, I am wary of any one person or organization offering to consolidate the power of others and take it forward to represent. I mean, that's to some extent what we do as like leaders of a company whose mission is to lead the financial revolution. But I think we do a really good job, at least I hope we do, to be clear that we are bringing the revolution to the people who will lead it. And it is not about us. It's about the many, and the many who have yet to join us. And, one day when I die, there will be a new Scrivener, and so on and so on and so forth. And other people will take up the mantle to write the story. And I like that Coinbase is giving us tools like this to participate in writing the story. But what I'm wary of is the consolidation of resources behind and underneath their name. I pinned this to the top of the space just so people can have more context. They are asking people, and we have pointed to Coinbase as somebody to support because they're doing good work in this area, but they're asking people to mint a Stand with Crypto commemorative NFT and add a shield emoji next to your Twitter display name. The commemorative NFT proceeds will go to vetted organizations through a crypto advocacy round with Gitcoin that does a lot of great work to fund public goods. They say, we're proud this collection will support the work of, and they name a number of different companies and charities. And then they offer a way to make your voice heard through their Crypto 435 campaign to grow the crypto advocacy community, share tools and resources. And you can see a lot of people tweeting this, retweeting this. I think it's important that somebody leads this. What I want to see that they are decentralizing this effort, that they are using their position and their resources to raise a banner and draw people there, but then that they are also empowering them to take action so that we don't become dependent on the Coinbase legal team, that we don't become beholden to them in some way. I haven't added a shield to my name yet because I'm just, who cares? But I don't want to lead and direct people to a movement where, like you say, I haven't done the vetting work enough to know that I can advocate for them advocating for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that's
I think I'm being stingy.
I mean, I think it's our responsibility to be a little bit stingy until you have, a little more confidence in your interpretation of the whole thing.
Yeah, more and more. I'm just very wary about using my voice. I don't want to be someone's, guru or expert, and too many people do that with more experience than I have. So I'm trying to be cautious about it. I'm sorry, Bill, I cut you off, man.
Yeah, the opposite is a mess. I mean, you come up on somebody's profile, or even more, tangible. You're sitting in traffic and you see the back of somebody's car,
sure,
dressed up with all these different bumper stickers, and you read them for fun, really, because it's like, they believe in, gun control, but Second Amendment right, or this and that, and they're so conflicting. It's like, it's a mess. It's it's hard to get good messaging across when you are kind of not, you don't pinpoint, and you're not thorough with what you support.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I kind of admire that you stay out of it. That's kind of where I would be. I would like, you know what? I have to really feel strongly about something before I'm gonna, start publicly advocating for it, because there's different sides to it, and it's not all good in one respect. So
I often think of the idiom, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Yeah,
That's a good one. I like that.
I'm very opinionated. I love fighting with people about arguing about. I've done it for years. It brings me debate is one of my love languages. But Evan and I also, just as content creators, I think we have a little bit of a unique perspective because I've personally seen lots of people that I would have considered friends start to attempt to cling to engagement that they had in the bull run by educating about crypto. And in order to keep that up, they have started rage farming people with contentious political opinions I would bet any amount of money that none of them know what they're talking about. People who are, they used to just like read a couple CoinGecko articles about a cryptocurrency, and now all of a sudden they fancy themselves a geopolitical thought leader. And it's very cringy to watch. And so like, I have things right in front of my face that are like, what you're trying to do? It's very easy to look at that and then take a step back and think, is that worth me getting more views? I mean, my views are in the toilet right now, as I'm sure most people can relate to in the content world.
Yep. Actual footage of Alex's views.
That's exactly what they sound like. Every time I open my TikTok, there's 2 notifications and that's what the sound plays at me. But, and I know I could get more views if I started like, well, let's bitch about Joe Biden for a bit, but ultimately, like, what am I going to accomplish by that?
Yeah.
Just getting angry people more riled up and screaming at each other. No, thanks.
I don't know. Let's take it over to our friends Neil and Lisa. Thank you for being so patient. I'm sorry I left your hands up in the air forever. How are you today? Let's do Lisa first, just because I want to make Neil wait. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I think it's good to be neutral and not not everything needs to be posted on social media. Yeah. You can support them. You can you can support certain things and not tell everybody about it. You don't have to engagement farm people. That's my opinion. If I do a lot of charity work and a lot of different things, and I'm not out there trying to make a movement. First off, it doesn't matter if I'm in Arkansas and you're in California, you're not going to help my cause unless it's a national movement. Sure. So that's the other thing. And then you've got these people from different countries, talking about their political climate and the other, and then imposing their views on the U.S. that have nothing to do with the U.S. So, that's what makes me cautious of posting things that would influence somebody one way or the other.
That's a really good take. The multiculturalism of it all is becoming more important as the world gets bigger. And I mean, even just the way we talk, a show like this where we're overlapping and we're back and forth and the conversation is really quick would probably not vibe very well in a place like Japan, where in conversation, you are supposed to take more pauses, speak more slowly. If we're going to lead the financial revolution and empower the faceless many everywhere, I will not be the guy on the radio in Japan. You know what I mean? I can't be. I shouldn't be. Somebody else who is native, who is local should be. I think that's a really tricky part that a lot of people maybe miss when they're building movements, is that not everybody lives like you do, and that's not a bad thing. It doesn't make them wrong. Got to be mindful of that. Neil, what about you, man? What brought you to the stage today, my friend? It's good to see you.
Engagement farming is a very hard image to prompt in Midjourney. I've been trying it for months and I get nowhere with it.
Neil, what have you got? I mean, like, I'm curious.
It's just a bunch of like tractors and animals and people getting married and yeah, exactly. It's pissing me off, and I even have like a custom AI bot that like helps me when I get stuck, and I'm nowhere with it.
When I picture engagement farming, Neil, I picture like a tractor in a field, but a bunch of like hands with their thumbs sticking up, like rising out of the dirt.
It doesn't work. Anyways, on to another thing. So, you guys are shitting on Gary, and the only thing I come back to, and Gary's not dumb.
No.
I mean, we can all agree on that, correct? We can also agree that there are technologies currently in place right now that are being used, in the stock market. They've got, they can hold trading if, something breaks. You would be able to do that with centralized exchanges as well through smart contracts.
Yeah.
If you're looking at a centralized exchange's, balance sheet or, a certain coin or whatever it may be, there's those technologies in places right now that can be easily implemented. Why aren't they? I mean, it's you got to put your tinfoil hat on, but I mean, there has to be some sort of logical explanations on why there is not clearer, and I emphasize the ER on that word there, because there are regulations in place right now. I mean, there are. It's called the Howey test. Now, do those apply to cryptocurrencies? The answer is yes. You could update them, certainly. So for as much of a clown and we can shit on all we want, I'm not sure why things aren't put in place right now. And in most cases, it comes back, to the dollar. It comes back to the capitalistic society that we live in right now. And is it because, the government, in air quotes, they aren't going to get their cut of it? Is that what it is? I don't think so. They could easily put, regulations and laws in place to get, a cut, a fee, whatever it may be. I'm not sure what the answer is, because they certainly have the capabilities to shut off anybody's banking account. I mean, we've all gotten those text messages, oh, Discover, you just bought something at some store you've never been to before. And it's within 2 seconds of you swiping your card. So yeah, I'm not sure. There's not a question there, but Gary's not dumb. But I don't know what the ulterior motives are, because there are certainly things in place that could be used.
Yeah, that's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
The scariest thing is I don't want to be left behind, and the U.S. is just dragging their freaking feet.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, I think that I think two things. I would agree with what you said, Neil. I will never accuse him of not being an intelligent individual. Right now, what I see is that he clearly has some sort of an agenda that I don't understand. And when faced with questions to try to shed light on that, he's being very evasive, and it's strange. And I admittedly don't get it, and I would like to get it. I certainly, you kind of get the impression sometimes when people complain about people running an agency or as a president or as a senator or a House representative, whatever, that they're like, I could do a better job. I know I couldn't do a better job. Unless the only thing that I was charged with doing was just not bullshitting people. But I will say that in that position, sometimes you can't just give the raw intel 100% of the time. And there's a reason that information classification exists. There's a reason that top secret, all of that stuff exists, because if you just gave everything to everyone all of the time, think about the din that would cause. Nothing would ever get done. It would be chaos. However, I think that at this point we have come far enough to where, to Lisa's point, it is very clear that other countries are showing a willingness to maybe get their hands a little bit dirty and experiment with something that may not be perfect. And because of that, all of the innovators are going there to experiment, and they're not experimenting here. And so we will suffer in the long term because of that.
Yeah, 100%. I am. We've talked about this, Alex. And I had this conversation the other day at a theater with a young person who, someone who's younger than
funny,
me.
Evan? If you realize how you and I preface almost everything we say is, we've talked about this before.
We've talked about this. Yeah, you guys know we talk, right?
That's got to be a bingo thing. But yeah, second of all, spoiler alert: Evan and I talk all the time.
Yeah,
and we talk about a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure our morning stand-ups at work are about 8% work related, and the other 92% is large spectrum theological discussions and philosophical debates and arguments about the nature of the creator or whatever.
Everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
I just get a kick out of it because I say it to you all the time before I say anything, like, we've talked about this, and it's just fun. I didn't mean to derail you. That's
Yeah,
just,
so pardon us.
that's got to be a bingo card for sure.
Go ahead.
Question. So how long do you think Coinbase is going to wait before they just say screw it and leave the US?
I'm inclined to think.
Well,
not
Alex
long.
talked about it last week. Yeah, they're already laying the foundation for.
Yep.
They have a multinational presence, and they're expanding their capabilities in that direction. So I'm hesitant to flip a coin and place a bet on the table, but I think what they're doing is making it easy for themselves to move there. What do you think?
I mean, we know how fast paced this industry is. We know how quickly things move and change and evolve. And if Coinbase wants to stay relevant, they're going to have to keep innovating and releasing new stuff and this, that, and the other thing. And I don't think they're going to wait. I mean, things change on a daily basis here. I would be surprised if they don't get clarity if within 6 months they're not out of here, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. What do you think, Lisa?
Well, see, this is my question is because me and Bill were talking yesterday and I was like, okay, look, how do you get on the exchange? Like he doesn't have a Coinbase and all this other stuff. And he said he did it by a credit card. So where does that leave us?
I hate shit out of luck, but
I mean, obviously I have my own crypto, but I self custody, but still, how would I onboard at that point?
Yep. I think that's the thing. I think that is, if I'm tinfoil hatting for a second, I think that could be one of the ulterior motives is let's cut off as many on-ramps as possible to stop people from onboarding as much as they can. Because to Neil's point, I think that there's a lot of potential validity in the idea that perhaps the powers that be are unsatisfied with their exposure to this and feel like they missed out. And so we have to, because if you really think about it, if that was my position, I probably wouldn't come out concretely one side or the other. I'd probably stall and try to be a little wishy-washy and be like, well, I just want everyone to be safe and all this bullshit while I'm loading up behind the scenes in a couple of different ways. And that's tricky with blockchain because we've got a lot of watchers out there. And spoiler alert, if you're trying to do weird shit on chain, people know. You can't hide. And
yeah, but that's what we expect Coinbase to do. So it's not going to look suspicious if a major exchange, which needs to cover costs and provide liquidity, is loading up on crypto. Nothing suspicious about that.
And I mean more not to say that Coinbase is thinking that way, but to say that the people who refuse to give them an avenue for innovation and operation, that they would be operating in that with that in mind.
Yeah. So this goes back to something we've talked about just a little bit, and something I've never really thought I would do, but is good for everyone to do, is if you're your own node operator, you secure the network and you get access to the network without having to go through an exchange. There are ways to get crypto without going through an exchange. You can do peer-to-peer, over-the-counter, OTC, and you can become a person who secures, validates, or operates otherwise a node on the network. Of course, it's super inconvenient for a person with a house to set up a node for Bitcoin and set one up for Ethereum, and you got to go through all these hoops and all this rigmarole.
Well, and
so
the cost there is significant.
Is significant, but that would be, I would say, I expect people who are really into crypto to start moving in that direction more and more, as you have done, Lisa, by becoming the custodian of your own assets. I think more and more people are going to want to directly access the networks that they are participants of.
Yeah, but isn't like running a node like on Ethereum, is it like 100,000?
You got to have 32. Well, so there are different types of nodes. You can be a validator just by, you don't have to have a monetary commitment, but there's another level, or maybe I'm misspeaking. Maybe it's the validator that has to have 32 ETH, but correct. 32 Ether is the cap. Yeah. And there are ways like through Lido is one, LIDO, where you can become a staking provider for any amount. Like they let you put up whatever you got, put up a GUI, and you can, I don't know what their threshold is, but it's much, much, much lower. Yeah. But it's not quite I don't think it's quite the same. I think there's, and I remember when they did the merge, I did all the research in it, but of course, here today, gone tomorrow.
On to bigger and better things.
Yeah, exactly. So there are ways, but for every network, it's going to be different. And, on Multiverse X, for example, there's only, I think they control what is it,
Correct.
Alex? There's only so many nodes, and if you want one, you got to sign up. You got to get on a waiting list, and they kind of walk you through it. So it's very different for everybody.
Yeah, and I just to add another point to that whole thing, if the what's the word? If the vision that we're being presented with, the reason for treating the industry this way from a regulator's perspective is to protect the investor, then it raises more questions than it answers for me, because the SEC doesn't just have crypto regulation under its purview. It also has other investment vehicles under its purview. And if we want to talk about things that are currently actively documented to be hurting private retail investors, we've got the massive amount of in-trading that happens within the confines of US government officials and the stock market. So perhaps we could also be doing something about that, or at least acknowledging that it's a problem, which to me, the fact that you can ignore that and focus on this means that I take with grain of salt doesn't even begin to count. I don't believe you. I think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
So, and then to the other point, we also know that if we look at something like, draw a comparison here, marijuana as an item, if you prohibit the acquisition of it from a safe and reputable dispensary or source, we know that people will still get it from less than reputable sources. This is the phenomenon with why does banning something not work in theory?
Hey man, my grandpa served in Vietnam. He's a reputable source, dude.
Evan's grandpa may be the exception to the rule. I will acquiesce that. But the point is that people will still have a desire to experiment or to get this and that or do whatever. And so to this point, if you ban or prevent anyone from using any of these like large, oftentimes insured whatever platforms to be able to experiment with this, that, and the other thing, they're going to go the opposite route and honestly are probably more likely to get hurt. So if your end goal is to protect the user, I don't really see how banning the big, safe, proven platforms for onboarding, I don't see how that accomplishes that goal at all.
Neil, what you got, man?
So Alex is in favor of no regulations on crypto then?
Is that what we took from that?
No, I'm using your marijuana analogy, and applying it to crypto. If you need regulations in place, great. Or if you're trying to ban it, then that's obviously bad. So
my point is that there is a middle ground between banning and total free reign. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having a conversation with open minds about trying to identify what that middle ground is. I would be very willing to participate in that conversation.
Yeah, and since we've talked about this, maybe I can, since we talked about this, what I take away from your take, Alex, is kind of like mine, and I think probably you might share some of this too, Neil, from the conversations we've all had is, so it's not totally centralized in the hands of the government or a government endorsed agency like the SEC. It is more native to what the technology enables, where perhaps there is a governing body here, there, or, an alignment with governing bodies, because governments are a thing that we have to deal with in the world. They regulate other stuff. So it makes sense to have them coordinate some regulation here. But because the technology enables everyday people like us to participate and by our merit, earn a bigger stake in, what our say is. I hold more, I gave more, so my vote is bigger maybe. I think it looks like that. You got a mechanism where governments are coordinating at scale. You got a mechanism where people who are not in government are coordinating at scale, members of the network. And what it will take, I think, is an alignment of incentives. That's to me, the component we haven't had this whole time is cryptocurrencies, programmable, rules-based money or rules-based incentives, because it's more than money, allow us to design rules enforced by no one to help us coordinate at scale. And so the experiment is, what are the rules that we can play as our world becomes more connected, as we involve a bigger web of complexity, more variables, so that all people are given a fair say, so that all people are incentivized to play well with each other, and that it's not just clunky and terrible and hard to use. So I feel like that's kind of what we're going for. Is regulation is a part of that, but it's a question of who has a say. Is everyone at the table, and does it benefit all the people? Are all the people incentivized to play, and do the rules support it? Clear as mud, right?
Yeah. So Evan, this I'll leave you guys with this. All-time highs will not be reached in crypto until there is U.S. government regulation on cryptocurrencies. It won't happen.
I'm into that. Honestly, frankly, I hope it takes some time because I'm still adding to my bags. Oh my gosh. Good take, brother. I owe you the second part of the secret word, and I'm sorry I've been delaying, and it's only because my mint links have not come to my inbox yet. So if you are waiting to collect a POAP, you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. I will make an announcement from this Twitter account and in our Discord when the POAPs are available to claim. But for now, you can claim the second part of the secret word, which is your, without an apostrophe, Y-O-U-R, destiny. Your destiny. Put it together with the first part of the secret word, and you, yes, you can claim your very own POAP when they become available. I promise I will let you know. It shouldn't be terribly long. Of course, you know, we might get in a war with the POAP.
Famous last words.
People. Yeah, right. So my apologies on the delay. But that's it. That's the secret word. And I know Neil's gotta leave us maybe, but Neil, I don't know that you've heard the story yet. I was gonna kind of close out the show with a reading of the story. And send everybody off into the weekend with that. But
Evan, there would be nothing better as I sit down to eat my lunch than listen to you read a book, and I am dead serious.
That, you know, it just makes me laugh that I believe you that you are dead serious, and I just never thought I'd be that guy reading a book on someone's lunch break to keep them company. And
somehow I knew that you were going to be that guy. Somehow subconsciously I knew that. You know, it's kind of a. I'll end my participation here before we get to Evan's reading with this thought, because I think that it's pertinent now that you brought that up. I've personally undergone a pretty significant phase of like self-discovery in the building and operation and running of Faceless Labs, along with people like Evan. And what I'm doing right now and finding the most value and purpose in is very different than what I imagined I would be finding value and purpose in earlier. And I think that that's kind of one of the things I want to carry over into the Founders Forge is that, listen, if you have a passion, if you have a thing that you really enjoy and you can't figure out how to make it into a career, based on my own personal anecdotal experience at this point, I just hadn't thought about it enough and thought about the potential and everything. Because if you would have told me 15 years ago, while I was actively working towards a career in government, that I could do this, that, and the other thing and end up with a company that I'm operating with a number of my best and closest friends, designing multiple video games and playing them with people on a regular basis, I'd be like, dude, shut the hell up. No, that's a pipe dream. There's no way. And so with that, you know, I think, Evan, I've just sort of imagined that you would go through the same exact thing and that we've started one place, we'll end up somewhere else. And I feel like this as an outlet within the Forge makes perfect sense for you. So
thanks, man.
I'm excited for more people to hear this story because seriously, not just blowing smoke up Evan's ass, it's pretty fantastic.
Now, I want to ask everyone for their input, for their feedback. And I'd like to go around the stage after we read and get everybody's final thoughts if you have time for it. If you are somebody who speaks a language other than English and you know somebody who does, and you would like to help us translate the spirit of this story into another language, we were talking about this last night on the stream. I think that's a really important task. And Alex, we haven't talked about this as a team, but one of my goals, while we're going to,
we haven't talked about this.
Yeah, I know, right? While we're going to, publish the book and we'll make hard copies of it available so that you don't have to like go out and write your own on a piece of paper. I do think I would really like to make the text of this book Creative Commons CC0 so that anybody, anywhere, if you want to get the Faceless Labs copy, you got to buy it from us. And I hope you will because it'll support the Founders Fund, etc. But anybody anywhere can be encouraged to create their own art to accompany this story, to create derivative works of this story, to make a video that features this story. This story is, I think, a good little pill of our movement's narrative. At least that is my hope for it, that people will hear it and without needing to know anything about crypto or tech or anything, they will be inspired and understand what it means to rise up and will want to join us in writing a better future. So that's what I got for that. If you know somebody who can help us do that, if you're that person, you know, I love and appreciate everyone who's in our community who has taken up that mantle and made it their mission too. I've said far too much. I'm just going to go ahead and I will read you this story. This is Rise Up. If you walk to the edge of the end of the day, it's quite a long distance and far, far away. You'll come to a place where the whole earth is still, and you can see everything up on a hill. Then suddenly winds will blow strong from all sides with thunder and rain, and there's no place to hide. The lightning will crash and you'll shiver with cold. But if you are brave, a great thing will unfold. The storm will grow quiet. The rainfall will stop. And just when you think you're alone at the top, a voice on the wind will say, listen, hear the story of all that your young heart holds dear. The tale of a hero misunderstood and the world that she knew before it was good. The hero was young, full of hope and of life, the world all around her of trouble and strife. She saw the great damage that people had done, and she knew she had to rise up. So she stood and spoke out with a voice loud and clear. She called for a change, and the people did hear. They listened and saw her and watched her brave deeds. They learned to rise up and to follow her lead. The hero walked strong with her heart on her sleeve. She showed the whole world what it meant to believe, to imagine a future where earth was restored and the people were happy. They put down their swords. Those folks, they taught others to rise up, and then they made a real difference. And that is the end. And now, says the wind, I have come with great haste to this spot where I'm whispering next to your face to tell you this story has yet to take place. You are the hero whose heart's full of gold. We're all waiting to watch your great story unfold. There's a hero inside you that cannot be beat, who never gives up, never falls in defeat. Your hero is friendly, is strong and not weak, and they're calling for you to rise up. It takes just one person to do what is right. It's not about fighting, but shining your light. You have the power. Rise up, make a change. Just think of the goodness that you will arrange for the sea and the people, the animals too. Trees, plants, and bugs are all counting on you to do what is right and to stop what is wrong. It sure won't be easy, but you will be strong. You're the best one to do it. You're up to the task. And if you need help, the wind whispers, just ask. We're trusting you. Guide us to brighter tomorrows and teach us the courage to rise up and follow. This is the part where your story begins. You are the one who decides how it ends. I believe in you. Rise up. My friends, thank you. Thank you for letting me share that story with you. If you like that story, if you want to share it with other people, if you think we can read it on their space, read it to a kid, let me know. I would be glad to send you a copy of the text. I would be glad to appear on your platform to read it. I'm trying to share it with as many people as might be inspired by it everywhere. And of course, I'm open to your input and feedback. I forgot to say, I would like to do a version of this book where the hero is not just a girl, but could be a boy. It could be a he, it could be a she, it could be a they. It's easy to change those words around. The goal is that every person everywhere who reads it might see themselves in it as the wind speaks to them, like they speak to the hero in this book. It's about you. It's about me. It's about us. That's my fun fact. And that's my final thought. I am well met. I would love to go around, and if you have a question, concern, word of wisdom, good joke to send us into the weekend, please share it with us here. Feel free to leave it in the comments, and we'll get back to it next week. What have you got for us, Lisa? Have you got a final word for us?
Can I make everybody jealous here?
I hope so.
During one of your shows, you did a secret word, and I believe you and I are the only two that have POAP.
Wow. Oh my gosh, are we really? And that might be expired. The secret word. They're only good for about a month.
It is. I checked before I said anything.
Check it out.
I minted 2 and you minted 1.
You got 2? Way to go. Lisa's hustling POAPs. Yeah, every now and then we do a secret word. I will tell you truthfully, I don't have one today, but you got to listen to the whole show to get it. Don't hurt yourself. Don't go back in time, but listen to the very end. Alex says he's got to go. Alex, thank you for being here. Tell hi to your family for us.
Will do. Absolutely. Thanks for reading, for hanging out. It's always good.
Thank you,
as
man.
usual. I look forward to next week.
Me too,
for
man.
More Gensler roasting and whatever the hell else we get into.
Absolutely, brother. Have a good weekend. We'll catch up to you soon, man.
You too, man. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys soon.
Bill, what about you? Have you got a final thought to send us into the weekend?
Yes, I look forward to a discussion about your book, and I think we need a deep dive into what it all means.
Okay, if you come up with the questions, then we'll have a reading group. We'll have a Rise Up book club. You heard it here first. There will be POAPs. Thanks, Bill. Thanks for your sounds, man. Thanks for being here.
All right, have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend. Everybody else, it has been a pleasure. This is the official Morning Somewhere show of the Financial Revolution. Wherever you are, whenever you listen, we hope you'll join us again next Friday, or that you'll catch the recording. We'll be back same time, same place. Meantime, you can catch us at Faceless_Labs. On behalf of my friend Alex Popovich, I am Evan Mann, and we love you. We really, really love you. Until next time, friends, rise up.
I will absolutely die on this hill. I will absolutely die on this hill. I am a big fan of this. It's just stupid. As you know, we are just people sharing their opinions on the internet. You're doing cool shit. I'm doing cool shit. I'm going to do cooler shit together. Hey, man. Hey, man. My dad can beat up your dad. And that's just bullshit. Little old Brad is a dumbass. I am so bored with cookie cutter projects. They're just shitty little projects. This is a gross misrepresentation of the facts. It's honestly really annoying, but hey, that's the best we can do. In light of this, give it a try. I mean, isn't it pretty obvious what's happening here? No one has any clue what's going to happen. The goal here is just to get views, not necessarily to educate. There is only one way to say this. It's honestly really annoying, but hey, that's the best we can do. I will absolutely die on this. Thank you for coming to my